Hi, this is Rick Tobin for MyGigster.com, and I've been talking with Josh Lida, a local attorney who specializes in entertainment and crypto and NFTs, and we've been talking about art and music. And I wanted to introduce Josh to you. Josh, could you tell us a little bit about yourself, your background?
Yeah. Hey, everybody. Thanks for having me, Rick. So I'm Josh Lida. As Rick said, I am the Director of Art and Business Law at Toy Trading Tribunal, PLLC, which is a Fort Lauderdale-based law firm. And we've been talking a lot about NFTs and how they could affect music and art and all that fun stuff.
So tell me what maybe is a typical issue you have with a musician that you can help them solve or that you consult on. How does that work? What's your life? What's your world look like?
So we'll just start IRL or in real life. So a good example is depending on the part of their career that a musician is focusing on. So for example, let's say someone wants to be a producer and they want to regularly produce albums for other artists. That's a contractual arrangement. If you're recording something for somebody and they're paying you for those services, you have a contract there. So I help artists draft their standard contracts that they can use on a regular basis, say for production or for selling their works, or if they're getting signed to a label, I can help them read that contract and then negotiate for that as well. Those are some examples in the real world, and those transfer to NFTs as well.
So what about if somebody's going to get paid royalties, if they're going to get paid once? It makes a huge difference. And is that something that you handle, you're comfortable handling? Is that something that comes up a lot?
The royalty thing is big because especially with Spotify and the proliferation of a lot, it's just easier to get your music out there, even if you're an independent. And you might be making 15, 20 cents a stream to start. Maybe it's even less, actually. I'm just throwing numbers out there to make them nice and round. But the reality is when you record a song, there are multiple copyrights associated with that song, and there are multiple royalties associated with that. So you need to be cognizant of who's going to register it, who's making sure it's getting collected. And if you're not the one that's personally collecting it, that you have an arrangement with the person to make sure that you're getting your funds for the work that you've done. It can get very sticky. So these are the types of things I like to talk to musicians about, because maybe they don't need me every day, to spend hundreds of dollars all the time talking to me. But every once in a while, when you're looking at a longer term project, you need to have an understanding of all the moving parts, because otherwise you can get into trouble down the road. Not necessarily, I'm not saying criminal trouble, but conflicts that can lead to litigation and can be very expensive and stressful.
Okay, so we were talking, also having a fun conversation about crypto, which is, I don't know when somebody's going to be watching this, but right now crypto's a fairly, well, I say it's fairly new. It's fairly new to me. You were just telling me it's been around for what, 10 years?
Yeah, Bitcoin started 13 years ago. Yeah.
So are you seeing musicians getting paid with Bitcoin now and crypto? How's that look in the world?
Absolutely. So yes, I mean, you can already get paid in Bitcoin if you wanted to, or a different cryptocurrency asset. That's a little bit easier. It's more so along the lines of just putting it into the contract and making sure you have the mechanisms to get paid in place before you play the music. You don't want to be in the position of getting paid all your money after the fact. But another thing that's very interesting with NFTs is, and just so people know, we were talking about this before, think of NFTs at a very, very basic level as a way to track ownership of something, right? Whether it's a tangible good or an intangible good. So when we look at songs, you have an intangible asset, which is your copyrights and your resale royalties that you're entitled to. So we've seen a lot of musicians experiment with NFTs in a lot of interesting ways to be able to get their music out to more fans and also make money. So we were talking, there's a company, I think it's called royal.io or something like that. And a lot of bigger musicians have utilized it, where I can sell an NFT worth 1% of my resale royalties in the future, right? That's an example of that. You've seen artists like Diplo and a couple others have already launched that, and they've made decent amount of hundreds of thousands of dollars by people buying these NFTs. And it's interesting because then you create a interaction between the listener or the fan and the artist. That's not just purely economic. It's like, yes, I like the song. Yes, I'm supporting the artist, but I'm a part of the success of this song. So you create a community around it. Another way that people have done it is they'll launch an NFT just like an artwork. So they'll have an artist, animate or create a music video for each track. And then you can sell them as a one of one where there's only one copy and you sell it for $1,000 and that's it. That's what you make. And then every time it resells, you can make money, or you can make additions, right? 15 of each, 20 of each for lower values. So artists are already experimenting with it. And when I say artists, I do mean musicians as well. Musicians are already experimenting with this. There's a lot of examples online of people who have done very well with this. And if you have a new idea of how you want to get your music out there, the beautiful part about this technology is you can probably try it, and it very well may work. And we're going to see a lot more of this going forward, I believe.
So when I go to an art gallery, I see a painting that may sell for tens or hundreds of thousands, maybe even into the millions. And also sometimes I see the artist print, the different versions that basically to me look the same, but are wildly different in valuation, what the artist is going to get paid, and how they're going to get paid, because once he sells typically a piece of art, he's not getting a piece of it each time it resells. But it seems like that's a little bit translatable into music. Is that the case? Somebody
when you sell a work one time, you mean?
Yeah, so you make an original, let's go back in time, the original Beatles track.
Yeah.
That may be different than 15 copies down the road, or is it? Is that one more valuable? I assume, if you have the original album cover and, or maybe I don't know. You tell me, how does that work?
I love this question. There's just so much there that we can go into. So let's take that original Beatles album. And for whatever reason, my parents had a record collection, and I remember the George Harrison solo album, right? Because I remember opening it, the vinyl, and it had this big poster in it and the lyrics and all the song titles and all this extra stuff that's not really the music, right? So let's look back on that. Anyone can go to Spotify and listen to a George Harrison song. But not everyone has that poster. Not everyone has that original vinyl. And so when you get more niche and when you break down these elements of songs more so, I think it creates abundance and new opportunities for both the fans of the music and the creators of the music. You have the ability to create 15 tracks and they're going to be valuable because there's only 15 of them. You have the ability to make one track and for that to be valuable because there's only one of it. It's going to depend on how you see it playing out, what you think your fans are, and how it works that way. And to your point, and let's reiterate on this, in an art gallery, you sell a work of art. Once it sells, the artist usually is not going to get another cut of any of the other sales in the future. With music, let's say you sell the track for $50 to start. First time, just throwing it out there. And then it's only one copy. It's got a great piece of art on it. And you say, we're this band, all the money is going to support us recording an album. Well, if I'm a fan and I come across this song, I can, and I have the means to do it, I can buy that NFT because I want that ownership, right? I can buy it and I can buy it for $1,000 or $1,500. And the original creator, the musician, will get a resale royalty from each sale going forward. So it's not just money off of one sale, it's money off of the resales as a market develops over time. So while each NFT, particularly right now, as the music industry gets more involved into it and starts spreading its wings, so to speak, experiments with the different types of releases, you're going to see markets develop, and those markets can then benefit artists in the future as well.
So Josh, that brings up an interesting discussion to get a little bit more roast. So somebody does sells their NFT, and we'll get back to whether they have to use crypto or not to buy and sell. But what happens when they die? Is that a new and developing area of law? Who gets paid after that?
Everybody listening, Rick asks such amazing questions. Yeah, it's a new developing body of law. It's going to be an issue going forward because, to your point, not everyone's comfortable with crypto yet, right? So not everyone's comfortable with accessing what we call wallets. It's just where you store your crypto or your NFTs. It's called a wallet. It's actually just a computer program, usually on a browser, right? That's really all it is usually. There are things called cold storage, but I'm not going to get into that here. That's a little bit different. So to your point, let's take an example. A famous musician passes away, and he had or she had turned a bunch of their songs into NFTs. Where does the money from each resale go? Like, which wallet is it? Do we have access to the wallet? If we don't have access to the wallet, can we get access to the wallet? Since it's such a new technology, how is the court going to analyze it for tax purposes, right? So these are all questions that we have ideas, because a lot of the real world law stuff is, I think, is just going to transfer over to the digital aspect as it gets more and more prevalent. But because it's so new, like 13 years actually is very new in the law, we don't know how the courts are going to interpret them. So it is something to watch, and it's a concern. I mean, I've spoken to people who are concerned. Hey, I'm a little worried my spouse won't know how to get access to all this stuff if I go, right? So how do you deal with that? Are you leaving instructions in your will? Are you telling your probate attorney what they need to do? Is there a service that you can sign up for that will help your spouse track down your crypto assets and make sure that you get access to them? A lot of unanswered questions there going forward.
Okay, interesting. And let's go back to when I buy something, my wallet looks like that. So can I, and maybe I'm not up to speed on all the crypto stuff. Can I buy music or artwork if they're selling it with an NFT without having owning crypto or understanding crypto myself?
Yes, absolutely. So earlier on in NFTs, not so much, but there's a lot of service providers, and we're seeing major payment settlers, right? Like Visa and others get involved. PayPal you can store crypto, and I believe NFTs, I'm not positive about that, in like a PayPal wallet. So yes, if you're interested in this stuff, but you kind of feel uncomfortable with opening a wallet or getting crypto, you can buy this stuff right now via credit card. Ultimately, it's going to get settled via crypto because that's how the tokens transfer. But you as a consumer have means to purchase NFTs without having to be comfortable or know any of the tech stuff. Think of it like the internet nowadays. We don't actually know what's going on behind the scenes on these websites. You know, the DNS is connected to this server, and then, asking for permission to show this image, all that stuff. When you go on the website, we don't know any of that's going on. So over time, you're going to have companies, I think, develop just better user experiences where even if you don't fully understand what's happening there, people will become more comfortable with it and it'll become more user-friendly going forward.
So I know you're an expert on the crypto and the NFTs, and do you see the crypto as going to be the next currency? Like not that long ago, everybody used cash and then credit cards, and really credit cards are just the bank's keeping a ledger, although it's a rudimentary ledger at the bank. And when you use your credit card, they just transfer your money to somebody else's account or vice versa. And is that all that really crypto is?
Yeah. So when you strip away the value of the tokens and the coins and all that stuff, and you just look at the base technology of a blockchain, it's a distributed ledger, meaning it documents transactions. It stores it on whoever wants to download the programming. So tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of computers can run these programs. And all those transactions are stored in a ledger publicly. We can all access it through the internet. And to your point, it's not dissimilar to a bank having a ledger, just of transactions in, transactions out. So whether or not it will be considered a currency, that I can't really know for sure. That's a very unanswered question. There's the big debate. Are they securities? Are they commodities? Is it money? Is it something different? These are getting hashed out right now. But what I do feel relatively comfortable saying is I think we will see more businesses accepting it going forward and more people being comfortable with trading crypto for either services or, consumer goods like music. I think we're going to see more of that. I was at a brewery yesterday and they said now accepting Bitcoin. I'm like, that's odd. Okay, cool, great.
Okay. So what percentage of your practice would you say is devoted to musicians? Is that a big percentage of your law practice?
Yes. So, as I said at the beginning, at the top, I'm an art and business attorney. But while I say art, usually referring to visual arts, I help out musicians as well. So within the art part of my practice, which makes up probably 50 to 60% within that, I would say another 20% is dedicated to musicians. So, and like I said, I help people draft contracts, audit contracts. I'm very comfortable with it. I grew up playing guitar myself. I could talk to you about music for hours. It's a whole other conversation. So it's something I'm very passionate about, especially because in 2022 going forward, NFTs or not, people can create lives for themselves with what they like. I believe this anyway, what they like and what they're passionate about. But to do that, you need to have the basics in place so that you're protected and that you're actually recouping value for your work. Because even though it's art and it's fun, you're still taking the time and creating something. So it does make up a decent percentage of my practice. And I've seen more of it recently, actually, over the last few months.
So if somebody wants to get in touch with you, maybe have a consultation, maybe talk about their band or contracts, how do they reach you?
So you can find our website. It's twiglaw.com, twig like a tree. So TWIGLAW.com. My email is josh@twiglaw.com. You can send me an email anytime. I think we have a contact sheet on the website as well. And I'm also active on Twitter. So my Twitter handle, I believe, bear with me if I'm wrong, it should be ESQLIDA. ESQLIDA is my Twitter handle.
Okay, terrific. And we'll put those into the, when we post this, we'll put those contact details into the comment section. So if somebody missed that, they won't have to find that in the video. And I know we could talk about a lot more stuff. You and I go on forever, and but we'll leave that more for another interview. And I just want to do a quick pitch for mygigster.com. If you have a band, if you're a supporting professional, it's our new directory. We'd love to get you in there. And we want to have a source for you to have a listing there for people that want to hire gigs to find you and know about you and get in contact. So mygigster.com, and we'll see you around town.